I absolutely love sprite stacking, but when I went to try to add outlines to all my sprite stacks for my game Tiny Drift, I figured out that my workflow was a mess. It was really hard for me to find a way to add outlines for all the assets that I wanted to be like fake 3D. I went out to research a solution. That's how the game looks now after the outlines were implemented. I wanted to show everyone how was a little bit of my journey to get to not having the outlines and being able to actually implement them for all the assets so far. If you like the aesthetic of Tiny Drift, I'll leave the Steam page link in the description and also my X page and my Blue Sky page. You can give me a follow to get to know when the public demo comes out, which is in the next few days. And also you can leave a wish list for me. It really helps me, and as an independent developer, every wish list is very important. Let's get into it. Sprite stacking is a technique in which you combine multiple textures on top of each other with a slight offset. Then you can achieve these kind of like 3D effect in 2D games. It's quite common and many games do it. I personally chose this for Tiny Drift because I'm super obsessed with it. So this is a side-by-side comparison of where I landed. As you can see here, I'm selecting, this is the player scene, and I put it beside this like an enemy scene. So those are basically achieving the same effect. And I'm going to show how it works the old way. So basically you can see here, I selected all the sprites, Sprite Stack classes, and I want to see them working so I can rotate. Yeah, so it's working really well. You can zoom in and find the, what does it look well in the editor, and then fix it in the pixel art software. But then if I go to the enemy scene, things are way more flexible, right? You can see I have all the outline basically hidden. It's here, like it's nothing showing. And if I go to the Sprite Stack class, I have this outline editor, right, configuration, which I can basically just enable and disable. So that's first of all one press, and that's really nice. I can select a color, so I can apply saturation, I can change the value, I can really experiment and even add the swatches from a game, and have like a different style of outline, and super easy to do. And I think like the best thing I can do is also I can click and rotate the sprites together with the outline without having to select all of this, without having to mess with the scene tree, and I can achieve the same result, right? So you can see them side by side working correctly the same way I designed them. And for me, this allows to explore more the assets individually and being able to achieve the same effect and have more flexibility without the cost of the node tree. Let's take a look at the class Sprite Stack and how did I achieve that result on the editor that you just saw. By the way, if you're interested, just leave a comment and I can totally share this class on GitHub. I can send a link over here in the comments. So as you can see here, we have a few variables in this class. It extends Sprite 2D. So pretty much I have the same properties of a Sprite 2D. There's some variables that are very old that I don't use it anymore, like prototype things. The offset of the Sprite Stack, the rotation, those are, export variables that I can control to the editor, like if I want to visualize something. As you can see here, I just load a texture. That's the normal texture with different frames, and I define the animation properties of it, so I can know exactly which frame to render. And here I also have the properties in regards to the outline, as like outline enable, outline color, outline width. Those are for the solution using the rendering server. They have setter functions. I'm gonna go over this in a moment. What's really important is that we have the rendering server resource ID arrays. So I keep them as a reference in a variable, and a material, which I also apply to the previous solution, and a stack rotation. That's just for easiness of access of the rotation of the sprite when the player is controlling, and also when the enemies are navigating or like trying to chase you, so I can access this a bit easier and apply in different places. The way it works under the hood is that we have the process function, and if the outline is enabled, we draw the outline. On the ready function, there is a render sprites, which is a very simple function. Basically for each frame, I have a new sprite, and yeah, which I, by the way, could also be using RenderingServer for this, but this is a very old code, and I think at some point I'm going to rewrite and also use the RenderingServer, so use the same solution I wrote for the outline. You can see at the end that if the resource IDs are not empty, and if the variable on the editor is enabled, I just draw the outline. And then we have so a few things first, right? We have a function called setup outline and draw outline. There's also the notification, which is an internal method from Godot that you need to write, and that's important when you're like dealing with resource IDs, either for the rendering server or for the physics server, because you need to be able to clean up and like manipulate when those things are not being used anymore, otherwise they can leak. So setup outline, that's where the magic happens basically. You can see here that I clean it up. I got a reference, which, I mean, this I can do a little bit more elegant, but for now it works. At the moment, I create a material, I assign the shader material and the color parameters to the variable that comes from the editor. I have the offsets like left, right, top, bottom. So here you can see I create a canvas item for each of the offsets available. And yeah, I set the parameters, the index as relative. That's really important. I found out after testing that I couldn't see the outlines correctly. You set the material that I just set up here at top, right? So basically that's just the resource ID of the material. And I set the transform. Yeah, we're gonna get into this in a moment. I append this to the outline resource IDs. Then I call a function that draws it. So this is the draw outline function, and that's just an early exit. And here there is like nothing crazy happening. I'm just getting the size of the texture, the width and the height, getting the midpoint. And for all the resource IDs that I created prior, I'm just assigning a specific rect area. So it's a rect2 of the texture that I'm drawing and applying transform to it. Pretty much with the rotation, that's a variable, I keep it as a reference, and that's enough. Basically that's enough to draw the outline, and this has to be called of course in every frame. Of course, if I want to clean it up, which you have to do it to avoid leaking, you can free the resource IDs to call it when it's during the notification function. And that's very simple. That's also explained on the RenderingServer documentation page. I clear, then I also make sure there is no reference to the material. Those are the two setter functions, just so I can actually see in the editor working the outline. And like here, you can basically see, I can just do this. If you really like the solution and if you like to have the code, I can share with you over GitHub, or you can just pause the video and check it off. If you have any challenge or any problem that you would like to have it solved with one of these low-level rendering physics server from Godot, let me know in the comments. I'm super happy to do another video about it. Also, again, if you would like to see the code, just let me know as well in the comments or send me a message in one of my socials. And yeah, I see you on the next video.